All right, we're getting the stream back up and running here, guys. All right, just give everybody a minute here. Crack my knuckles, get things ready to go. All right. Okay. Checking my monitor here. All right, looks like we are live. And we are continuing our stream from earlier this morning. Just a quick intro for anyone new joining here for the first time. My name is Ross Shabilsky, founder of D20 Studios, indie game developer based here in Salt Lake City, Utah. And I am working on a game called Summoner's Fate, a top-down tactical RPG combined with deck builder and adventure and exploration. And so earlier today, I was streaming development. We were adding some new cards players had requested. And the one in particular we were working on was this guy called the Battle Mage, which is this card right here. And he has some wicked cool powers that allow him to add a knockback effect to all of his spells. However, we encountered some really fun edge cases and bugs when combining those with various spells because, not, as you'd probably expect, there's a lot of weirdness that happens when you just modify existing cards to do new things. So, particularly where we were left off was with the Chain Lightning. So I'm going to go ahead and load this guy back up. And I did have some time to think about it while I was having my lunch and came back with some fresh ideas. So I'm going to kind of show you what I learned and discuss how to make this work best. But so I dug into the spell in question was this Chain Lightning that was causing an issue where when you knock back, it was blasting the lightning bolt from this alternate location. So after digging into it, hey, Babarasu, thanks for joining the stream. Glad to have you here. We are following up on some development we did early this morning, and things didn't go according to plan, as development often does, or doesn't rather. And so we were trying to wrap up the bugs I had created in the last session and get this all up and working again. It is now a happy little stream. Thank you, Clever. So beautiful art. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Yeah, actually it's funny. I just realized I see I just made the Bob Ross connection. It's funny. I actually love watching that. My wife and I enjoy watching it sometimes at night. We'll watch the Bob Ross on Netflix, and it's the absolute best thing to fall asleep to. That guy is just so great with how he does the talking while he's painting and working. So yeah, I guess if you will, this is my form of art, Bob Rossing. As a developer, I'm Ross and I'm talking as I develop. We're gonna put a little bush, you know, right there. Let's see, put a little bush right there. It's your world, whatever it is that you want in your world. Yeah. So totally, I keep up the Twitch stream up all the time. Oh, awesome, so good to hear. Um, yeah, so I'm gonna share. I'm just laughing. This got me chuckling now. Thank you so much. All right, I'm gonna pull up the animation and show you what I discovered here. So we're having trouble debugging this because all of our debug logs seem to point to the fact that it should have been working, and in fact those logs were correct. This is in fact where the culprit was. So I had this little code inside the lightning animation um, that was causing it to come back and reset the start location to the caster, and that's why our start location was throwing off. The reason I have this code in here is so that when it casts the lightning bolt animation, it looks to see where the caster's like hand or staff is, so that it actually repositions the start of the bolt to be exactly on wherever their casting surface is. So it looks more like the bolt's coming out of their staff as opposed to the middle of their body. And that's why it was causing the animation to glitch. So what I did was I added additional property here to check for this set is casting, and then in the chain lightning I override that so that chain lightning no longer casts out of that location anymore. So that took care of the problem with that. But then I had some other issues where it was not exactly lining up. So let me kind of show you how I fixed it here, and we'll see what you guys think. Um, I think the scenario was something like this. We had the characters over here, and it was like this. And we put him over here, and so we wanted to make it so that we zap him, his power is going to bounce him 2 spaces when it adds the lightning bolt, and then it should zap over here. And so I'm going to zap him. All right, and see, there we go. So that's a little change I made. I made it so that normally if there's not a knockback happening, I'll put him over here. Put this guy over here. Normally if there's not a knockback happening, the lightning bolt goes in a kind of continuous beam like that. So what I did was I added a little special condition to break the lightning bolt animation so that it waits until this knockback is done before it continues. So that it looks like a little bit more natural. What it was doing before when I put that fix in was it was zapping him, and then it was creating a zap kind of preemptively before he got there to the rest of those guys, and that looked kind of weird. And Clever says, yes, that's exactly how I imagined it should work. Excellent. So we got that fix. The downside to this, of course, is that I had to make some code changes. So this will, in fact, require a client update to get those animation fixes in there. Now, one great thing about this is that since it is just a view-based thing, it's not affecting any kind of game logic, there's no reason we can't go ahead and put the Battle Mage into the game today with our DLC updates. So we still have that option. It's just that when we do, there will be a noticeable bug with the lightning animation until the next client update. So again, if you guys are okay with that, and we are in early access after all, so I suppose our goal should really be about gameplay as opposed to worrying about the animation. So that's just one of the little constraints there. So that's working. Now, I do recall that you guys had some additional edge cases. Clever, you said you had another one you wanted me to try out here. Yes. Okay, so my other edge case I thought of. What if you knock back a unit that has that exploding squirrel thing, Aftermath, on it? Where does the explosion go? Oh, yes. Okay, that's a great call. Yeah, let's take and see what happens with that. Okay, so I'm gonna guess that this one's gonna work. I have confidence it's gonna work. But we're gonna try it out because the detonate should be a separate action that triggers after completion of the other event. So this should in fact work correctly. But we're gonna try it out. So what I'm doing here is gonna go to my decks, and I am going to add. Let's see, that was the eye contest. Spell detonate to our testing list. Save that. And I'm going to go back to maps. And I'm going to go to this grassy path again. Okay, so we're going to try it out and see how this edge case works with that guy. This is actually be kind of fun because with the little physics of this, we're going to be able to do something kind of cool. All right, so we're going to put detonate on this guy. And detonate is basically an enchantment that makes it so that when he dies, he's going to explode and blow up everything that surrounds him. All right, and with his power, again, we added knockback 2 to all of his damage spells. So normally a lightning bolt wouldn't knock anything back, but in this case, there we go. That's what I would expect there, and that was kind of cool. Take that, suicide skeleton into the pile. And we'll go ahead and try that with the chain lightning. That also looks like it works as expected. So yay, a success. I like when things work. Okay, so yeah, I'm sure there's other edge cases we should try out. I did, try out this meteor shower. Is kind of cool. So this one does damage to everybody on the board, and it's kind of cool because this one will also knock back everybody. I don't know if that's a little too OP or what. Wait, did that guy only get knocked back 1? No, see, that's interesting. This guy got knocked back 1. He should have been knocked back 2. I wonder what happened there. Unless it's possible that, would he normally get knocked back? Let's see. Huh. I'm thinking the reason is because his next knockback location would have been here. That's probably what that is. I guess that makes sense. Because it's the Bresenham line, the next location for him would have been... I'm not sure where that would be. I would think he would go back further. I'm assuming that's what it is, though, because he went here, so it must be Yeah. Will they knock into each other? Asks. Okay, so Clever says, if they're stacked vertically and you meteor them all, will they knock into each other? Okay, that's a great question. This was one of the issues we had originally with the secondary target thing, and this probably is going to create a bit of a traffic jam, I'm thinking. Or it's just going to work, because cool. And I wonder if it makes a difference if I pick the target, because let's say I put it on this guy. That still worked. Okay, and does it matter if I put it over here? Okay, I'll take that. That looks like it works as it should. Kind of cool. I suppose it depends entirely on the order it decides to put those meteors into place. But that looks like it worked as expected. So cool. Yeah. That was kind of fun. It tried to knock back the first guy, but it couldn't. Cool. All right. Yeah, that is some weird physics going on with all those different effects combining. I'm sure you guys are going to find something in the game that's going to break his ability. It looks so good. I'm so stoked to play, says Bob Ross. All right. I'm stoked to have you try this out. All right. Okay, I'm trying to think if there's any other weird damagey type causing spells that we need to test with this character to see if this works. I was trying to think if I had any spells that cause like pull-in damage, because that would be interesting to see if it pulls them and then pushes them back. I don't know what would happen in that case, but I don't think I have any. All right, let's move on to his secondary ability. Oh, okay, we got another question. Top of the map or the top of the player's screen? Let's see. Top of the map or the top of the player's screen. I think if I put them all over here, it's going to be... I'm not sure if that's what you're asking or not, but knockback will always go relative to where the caster is with his ability. So I think if he's over here at the top, it's going to take and knock him down now. Oh, actually, that was kind of cool. See, in this case, we were over here, and the knockback just pushed him away from where he was standing. So there you go. So the knockback is just relative to where he's at. Yeah, that's going to add some definite mind bending. You're going to need the undo button with this guy. I was asking about the meteors targeting. Oh, yeah. I think the meteors... yeah, that's a great question. I'll show you. So the meteors always fire from the top corner of the screen. I believe if I change the orientation to landscape left over here. So now we're on the complete opposite side here. Where's that meteor shower again? There it is. Yeah, so they always look like they're kind of falling from the screen regardless of how you orient. And if I go right side, I think it'll do the same thing. Meteor. There you go. So meteors always fall relative to that. This is an interesting, cool thing too. If you notice I have the spell icons always orient to go the direction the spell would fire. So I think this is where the meteor should fire, from left to right. Yep. And then if I go landscape left and flip it around, you see now the meteors go this direction. And they do go that direction. So everything's kind of designed UI-wise to make it feel like the icons are encouraging you to drag out from the side of which you're casting from. So like the spells are all, see how they're all kind of oriented to flip outward to point from edge to where you want to drag. That's kind of like a UI choice. The icons will rotate like that. Cool. All right, so let's put it back over here. Now, he's got this other ability here. So we had designed like this accessory for him, which is this spell book here. And I was trying to think of what kind of cool powers they could do with the spell book. And when the artists put it together, they kind of designed it like the shield. I guess they thought it was a shield because it kind of looks like it would protect him like one. And so I thought, you know what? Maybe, he's a battle mage, right? And he's got his crazy staff. He's going to be out there fighting with fireballs. And he's got this spell book. Incidentally, I guess I should show him here. He's on our... get to the top here. There he is. There's the battle mage right there. He's on our key art there. And it's kind of funny. We changed the key art to use the fireball because everyone thought the book looked weird. But he's got the book in his character, so I thought, why not make it a spell shield of some kind? So normally a shield like this guy over here would block the next frontal physical attack. So in this case, he could kind of see him from the peripheral, so he was able to turn and block him. And but it would not block a magical or psychic attack like this. That just goes right through it. And then shield gets disarmed the first time it's used. That was a backstab, so it didn't shield it. kind of fun that you can use other guys' abilities to kind of spin them around to get the back to face you. So now you see his shield is down, and he can't use it again until after he moves to kind of recalibrate himself. Now it's back up. So the difference, though, I thought would be like rather than just making it a physical shield, which can only block physical attacks, maybe it should be like a magical shield, so it actually blocks magical things. And so I started kind of playing around with that, and I'll show you what I did. So in the triggered abilities, we've got block right here. Okay, this is how the block works. It triggers on preemptive event for damage, and there's 3 tiers of preemptive for damage, and it's kind of complicated, but the reason is that there's multiple things you might use to protect somebody. There's a shield with block, there's the force field card, and then there's surprises that might block things like a celestial shield that triggers as an effect. So you don't want to necessarily have all 3 of your defenses trigger at the same time. You want to kind of have them go in a cascading order. And I forget how the order goes, but I think it's it kind of goes in order proximity to body. So like a force field would protect you first, and then a magical celestial surprise card would protect you, and then after that the shield will protect you. So it's kind of like you have these concentric circles is how I imagine those things working. Anyway, this one protects you on block, and you can see here in the conditions I've got it so that it has to be a physical attack. Shields can't block non-physical things. And it has to be from the front or sides, and they have to have their shield up, which is what this is saying, in order for it to work. Okay. Now, for the magical shield, or the barrier, I basically copied that same thing. I gave it a new name, barrier, and I got rid of that requirement for physical. And then I also went ahead and added another effect to it. So this one actually blocks the event action, and then it has this effect here called negate. And what negate does is nullify any other cascading effects except for knockback. Knockback is a force, so it always gets applied, but anything like a freeze or a poison affliction or things that you would associate with the damage happening with the spell would get nullified or negated, I guess. Clever Name asks, do normal shields block arrows? Yes, arrows are physical, so they will block arrows. All right, so currently this spell as it works, I'm going to kind of show you. Bonus. Hey, the Pancreas is back. Welcome. And the Pancreas, for those who don't know, he is our artist, Peter, who has done all these amazing armature character animations for us in the game that you see here. And, okay, so we've got him up here, and I'm going to demonstrate his magical shield block. So, ice shards. And so he actually can take that, and notice how it did not freeze him. That was the negate effect. Yes. Okay. I am so glad. So Clever Name just wrote this question, which will be my next question. Clever Name says, maybe the magic shield should not block physical. And that's kind of where my mind went too when I saw this. I'm like, maybe this is a little bit too powerful, right? Because he's already got like this ridiculous knockback. He's got this other thing, but would a book really prevent a spear from gutting you, right? I kind of feel like that may be too much, right? So that's a great question. I like that. You can't stop a sword with the book. Yes, exactly. So that's a great idea. I kind of like that. The other reason I like that, I'm going to show you this other card. I've got this other spell card that I've been saving up. And so first I'm going to show you guys the force field, and I'll kind of explain the whole process of this, how this came to be. But we've got this card called Force Field. This is a very popular card in the game. It's one of my favorites. It basically creates a bubble around you that protects all incoming damage that's range. So arrows, like magical fireballs, ice shards, etc., until you get melee attacks. So it basically makes you invincible to anything except melee. And it will also protect the ground around you. It's kind of fun. If you shoot a fireball at someone in the force field, it'll blow up all the grass except for the grass you're standing on. It's kind of fun. All right, so then I had this other spell here called Celestial Barrier. And this, people have asked, doesn't this seem a little bit similar to the force field? I'm like, yes, it does, and that's because at the time I didn't know which one was going to have which power. So you can see here, this one also has sort of a blocking arrows, blocking magical kind of thing, and it's got target becomes immune to range and spell damage until struck by melee. Anyway, I've been thinking more about the barrier effect, and So we've got block for shields, which is physical attack, and maybe to distinguish this from the force field, we simply have a keyword that says barrier, and barrier just blocks any non-physical thing. So any kind of magical, it blocks fire, it blocks anything like that. And then you've got a very clear distinction between your shield block and your magical block. And I guess there you have it. And Clever says a sharpened fountain pen for the time rats does more damage if the enemy has. Oh, I missed the chat above that. Hang on, I gotta expand this chat. Go back to this thing. Sorry, I've got my little like chat thing hidden in the corner here. All right, he said the pen in this instance is not mightier. And then how can we make a pen weapon? A sharpened fountain pen for the time rats does more damage than the enemy has equipment. Nice. Okay, gonna put this back over here just so you guys can see more of my screen. There we go. Okay. So yeah, I was kind of thinking if you guys like that idea of it kind of being one or the other, then that works great. We can maybe even also add this card to the spell deck today too, and then have a celestial barrier in place. So let's take and go back to that other spell that we had before. Triggered abilities. All right, so we have barrier. Let's go ahead and make it so that barrier. I'll go back to this block. Okay, damage type physical. Okay, so we're going to add that condition. New trigger subject event action property. No, it's traits. Damage type physical is less than or equal to number 0. Okay, so this should make it so that he can no longer block books. I'm going to try and make that on par with how we had that one. So it looks like we did. Yeah. Okay. So now barrier will no longer block melee. Okay, so let's go back in here. Yeah, I'm always excited when you guys suggest things and it's in line with that same like, does that seem right? And now it makes me feel like everyone's on page with the right expectation for how the power should work. All right, so let's get him out there. All right, I got my book. I'm gonna stop your spear. Nope. Book's not gonna do that. And the cool thing is his book's still up, so he can't counter, but he should still be able to block other things. So there we go. He can still block that. Cool. Yeah, that works. And it'd be kind of cool maybe later on, again, when we're in the polish phase, we'll add some kind of like a magical effect to that book. So it kind of is more clear why it would block things. Does the book block arrows? Should the book block arrows? That's a great question. I love that it drops just like a shield. Yes, same animation. Well, because it's technically still using the block attribute. So for all intents and purposes, he has a shield listed in his abilities. So the animation works the same. Yeah, and I'm excited. I want to try creating that other card now that does the same kind of thing, the Celestial Barrier card. Yeah, so this is a good question. Should it block arrows? Now, obviously, that I like those arrows in the artwork for that last card where it showed the hand stopping the arrows look really cool. But maybe since arrows are physical, it shouldn't block arrows. We could certainly make it block arrows. That's not a problem because we could have it detect ranged attack as well. So his book could block either magical or attacks that are range based. So that's kind of up to you guys. The engine is flexible. This is really about what feels right, I guess. And we're gonna have to create a new keyword for barrier as well. So that's my next on my to-do list, to make a keyword for barrier. I think it would be a neat distinction. The barrier and friends works on non-physical only. Okay. So Clever, are you saying that the barrier and friends works on non-physical only? So it would not block arrows, correct? Let's go ahead and get a skeleton archer in here so we can kind of really make this. Okay. Bravo. Barrier and book would not block arrows or melee. Okay, cool. So, haha, I got a book. That's kind of funny. I don't know. Maybe a book could block. I'm trying to think of a real life. If I held up a dictionary, could I block an arrow? I don't think I'd want to try. You need a real shield to do that. Yeah, I kind of agree. I feel like an arrow would probably just go right through that thing. I've seen arrows go through like, pretty thick things before. I feel like you would get pretty hurt trying to do that. Yeah. Okay. So we'll keep it as that, and then I'll just change the artwork for the other spells so that it just gets rid of the arrows. We won't have barrier blocking arrows. Barrier will block magical things. Pow! Right into lore. Just, the puns. Straight. Okay. So there we go. Actually, it's kind of funny. It did go right through. Okay. Yes. All right. So let's go ahead and we're going to create a new keyword so that we can get that thing to pop up. Keywords. Okay. And I want to make one for barrier. All right, barrier. And I gotta see how I did the block one. Barrier, barrier, barrier. Stop next magical attack. That makes sense? I think so. Save. All right, there we go. And now we need to make sure we have that barrier ability. Let's see. Let's just change this. Not sure I have these. I think those are my filter things for keyword purposes. I think it'll still work. Let's leave that alone. That makes it easy to conceptualize. Yes, it sure does. All right, let's go and make sure the keyword pops up now. Okay. There we go. So now we got the barrier keyword lit up. Stop next magical attack from front or sides. Good. Yep. Ah. Can't block until moving to new space. Okay. Now, I'm not sure if we want to, I'm trying to think. Should I create a separate status effect that says can't barrier until moving to a new space? So I just sort of recycled that one for the shield. I just want to make sure if this makes sense. Can't block until moving to a new space. Incidentally, I should also make it clear, if for some reason you're a shield character that also has a barrier and your shield is down, you will not be able to block anything. Like, you don't get to both have a barrier and a shield. You get, once you use your block, it's kind of done. Unless we want to go ahead and create a new attribute for it, which I can certainly do. We could make a new trait or something for magical block versus shield block. Although I think it would be confusing because the whole thing is that we have his arm down to show you can't use it anymore. Yeah, you only get one block a thing per turn. I kind of agree. All right, let's leave this. Yeah, I suppose if I needed to, I could even say can't block or barrier until moving to a new space. But I think blocks is self-explanatory. We'll leave that. I'll see what kind of feedback players come back with. If it seems confusing in the game later, then we'll change it. But for now, it seems good. Okay, so there we go. We got his powers working. That's kind of fun. Now let's go ahead. I want to program that other spell now that does that barrier thing. So let's go and do that. Spells. And that was called Celestial Barrier. Okay, get rid of that. Let's go to functional, iscast, save. And I already know what sound effect I want to use for this. Let's do Celestial Shield. Okay. And what was that called again? That was called Celestial. Oh, perfect. Barrier. Recovery. Celestial Shield. Okay, and then go to Celestial Barrier. Okay. Celestial Barrier. Okay, so then we're going to say target ally gains barrier. Boom. That's a pretty powerful spell for 2. We may want to make that higher because you get one free block. It's recyclable. But we're going to do new, apply status effect, ability barrier. Doop. Doop. Visible. New. And then Clever says, just change the art to have fireballs or lightning as something instead of arrows. Absolutely. That's exactly what we'll do. We'll change this art. Yeah, lightning bolts are fire or something like that. I like that. Yep, and then it works perfect. And it's still cool, because it's like, no. Think of it like the the Neo in the Matrix stopping the bullets. Target subject. Target. And we want to say property team is equal to the ability user's team, so it's ally. Target. Property. Team. Ability user. Okay. Target team equal to ability user team, and we also want to make sure that the target is a unit. Yeah, very cool art on that card, says the pancreas. Dodge this. Get shot with arrows. Target trait is type unit greater than or equal to number 1. And there we go. Target team equal to ability user team. Target unit is greater than 1. Okay, so ally units gets to have barrier. Okay. Now, that being said, I feel like there's more to it than that. Because I also want to make sure that they use that block animation. I don't know if that's going to be an equipment change or what. Trying to think how we're going to get this to work. Because the way that the block animation works may not, I'm not sure if that's actually controlled by the character or the property down here. This is the thing here, this shield property is what tells it that the equipment has a shield, so it uses that block. I'm just wondering if it's going to do the same animation where it does like the disarm. So we're going to have to find out and see. Okay, let's go back and look at that status effect again. Ability. Block. Barrier. Huh. It's interesting. It looks like there's nothing that necessarily distinguishes if they have that shield or not. Well, we're going to find out and see what happens when I cast that spell. Let's go back to our magical test of stuff in here and go to spell. Give me that barrier, celestial barrier. Here it is. Okay. All right, let's go see what happens. Not quite sure what it's gonna do. All right, Imp, have some barrier power. All right, he has barrier. Says he'll stop the next magical attack. All right, let's zap him with something. Yeah, see that's unfortunate. He has the power. It says he can't block, so technically it's working, but it just doesn't read as well as it does with the block. Yeah, that just doesn't feel right. Trying to think of how to rectify that. I feel like what we may need to do is instead of that card being a spell, it acts like an equipment instead. So what we could do instead is have it where it grants them almost like, I guess the way I would picture it is that you've got a like his hand would be glowing, right? So like however the shield would normally be, it would have like the hand in a glow, like with like some particle effects on it. Like we basically create an empty piece of art that looks like that effect, so that when it does the block, his hand goes out, and then when he's done, it puts his hand down, and then it would actually be like an equipment instead of an enchantment. So you wouldn't be able to get rid of it unless you had like a rust card or something like that. That's how I would picture it. Because otherwise, just it doesn't feel right. So maybe what we could do is let's go to the equipment. Let's see if we can test this theory. So I've got something in here that looks like that called wooden buckler. Yeah, this guy. Okay, so I am going to copy that. I want to call this the barrier. And I'm going to change this to ability. And Battlehammer characters can't be equipped with it. Yeah, exactly. Because you can't bury yourself with a thing. It's going to restrict it based on that. Exactly right. So this will have to be only usable on characters that could equip a shield, which makes more sense. Sounds pretty great, says the Pancreas. Excellent. All right, so instead of, we want to give him ability barrier. Okay, so give him that. So it's going to equip like a shield. And let's change this icon to Celestial Barrier. Make this card be Celestial. There we go. Okay, and then we have this cost 2. Okay. And we don't want to have it have any kind of thing on there, so this is where it's going to be kind of fun. Yep. So what we'll have to do is we're going to create a weapon that's going to have that barrier animation, and then it's going to basically add a particle effects to their hand. That's how we're going to get this to work. And the cool thing about that is weapons are assets, and assets are DLC, so we can still push this thing to DLC, I think. Okay. Let's make this card functional. Barrier, shield. So it's no longer going to be a spell, it's an equipment, which is kind of fun. One thing I'm worried about, Ross, is how characters' attacks that aren't linked to their weapons, like someone with a big hammer that has knockback should lose knockback when you equip a new weapon. Oh, okay, let me see. I want to see who asked that question. Get this. My little chat thing is sometimes hard to interact with here. Says the Pancreas. Okay. Yeah, that's a great question. In fact, I've got that larger kind of item on my to-do list. And then Clever says, I thought it already worked that way, like spear or poison dagger. Well, yeah, there's a quite a history of exploration with the equipment stuff, and I'll kind of give you some context for it. So originally, I thought about this game from the sense of like if it were an actual tabletop game, and you had printed cards that you would use, like you would be playing physical with like with a printed card, right? And then the notion that you could equip somebody with a new piece of equipment. I like the idea that equipment gave you additive abilities because then the powers were this text plus this text combined. And so to eliminate things where like it wouldn't make any sense to be able to block without a shield, I took away the ability to equip shields on two-handed characters. It also begs the question if you have a two-handed weapon and you equip a shield, what's your other hand going to have? A punch, I guess? I'm not quite sure. So that kind of created a bit of an issue there. And yeah, and so Pancreas right now is even saying things like, well, right now creatures like the Mantis have a spear that he throws, like a harpoon that he uses to pull characters in. But you can equip him with the poison dagger to give him the poison power, but he still has his grapple power. So that's kind of weird. So those are kind of some edge cases I hadn't thought about with my original thing. Originally, I wanted to make it so that like equipment weapon was always going to be additive to the character's existing powers and not replaceative of whatever powers they currently had. Kind of the same thing with the barbarian. He's got a knockback power, but is that power because he's so strong, or is it because he's holding a two-handed sword? Or his like rampage ability, where he kills somebody and then he gets to keep going on rampaging and defeating other characters. Um, so I guess from that standpoint of if it were a physical tabletop game, I didn't know how to communicate that. Hey, if you de-equip this, you lose this power. Kind of the same concerns for things like if I were to give a barbarian a bow and arrow, would it make sense he still has a knockback? I mean, I don't think you can ever pull an arrow so hard that you can make someone go flying back. But that's sort of one of the questions with that is, should the powers be replaceable or not? So the answer to that question, though, is yes, absolutely. I think that's definitely a problem with the game, especially with things like Peter said with the poison and the dagger not really being a harpoon type weapon. So maybe the situation is here is not worry about it being a real game, just like rewrite the card text whenever you equip something, and just leave it to the player's imagination to understand why they lost their existing power. So that's something that could happen in the future, as I may decide to remap abilities to equipment so that when you switch equipment, it also switches those abilities. Now, in some cases, that does happen. Like when you switch from one equipment to another, it will grant certain abilities. Like I'm trying to think of cases where that exists right now. If you have a far shot unit and you give them a two-handed hammer, they still have their far shot, but the far shot does not get the power of the knockback. That's one case where it currently does work. All right, and Clever says if you're barbarian enough, you can probably knock people back with an arrow. Yeah, that's I suppose you could. Pancreas says the visuals work so well with changing abilities with equipment. Yeah, it's true. I love the idea of the equipment is fun because it really lets you customize the character. So maybe this is just as simple like, hey, it's a digital game. If you equip somebody with the, and then we could also remove the restriction, right? So we could have things where like a two-handed character could get the shield, but then they would lose um, their two-handed ability, whatever that was, like the knockback or something like that. I don't know. So yeah, definitely a discussion we want to keep exploring in the future. But I could see the game changing that way so that we tie the abilities to specific powers. Okay. Anyway, right now we're just going to go ahead and test out to see if this actually works as I think it's going to. So we now have barrier as an equipment. I'm going to go back to the decks, and now we've got to go to the characters. What was that test icon test? Okay, so now Celestial Barrier. We don't want to use that. We want to use the equipment Celestial Barrier. Uh-oh, did I not save it? Oh, I guess I gotta change it to Celestial Barrier. Okay, save. Back to equipment. Yeah, this should say Celestial Barrier. Okay. This also will prevent you from casting this on things that couldn't use their hands to block, like a bug. So the more I think about this, it makes a lot more sense that it should work this way. The other path we could go is if the barrier were something like that was like floating around you maybe and can still have categories. Oh, sorry, I can't read this again. I got too much text on the screen. Okay, and can still have the categories of upgrade cards, real equipment changes, and added effects, and poison, add knockback. Yeah, absolutely. Instead of poison dagger, maybe it's just poison vial. Exactly. Yes, we could totally do those type of things. That's actually a great way to handle that. Okay, so yeah, hammer could be poisonous. Why not? Interesting. Oh, I can't equip it on the imp because he's using a two-handed weapon. See? There you go. So now she's got the barrier. It's still not obvious because nothing changed with her. It also didn't seem like she did any kind of animation. I would have expected that to have done like the little, but possibly because there's no actual asset defined. Oh wait, we gotta cast a spell. Okay. Still not quite obvious that she's got a weapon in her hand. Yeah, that's interesting. She's not wiggling her hand down there. I would have expected that to have worked. I'm not quite sure why that happened. It's possible because we need to actually put an acid on that. I'm not sure. Let's find out. Celestial Barrier. Okay, let's give her something. Let's give her something small so it doesn't look like an obvious shield. Ooh, get rid of this. Alright, let's flip to the weapons. Let's just find something for now. Something small. Maybe this bomb. Steampunk bomb. For all I know, I might even have something that looks like a barrier already. Oh, I know what we could give her. Let's give her that thing that we gave the iron knuckles. I'm trying to think what that was called. It's called iron knuckles. Do 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 do. I thought it was called iron knuckles. I had to go find out. Hang on. Spells. Units. Okay, so the character I'm thinking of is the Marauder Medalist. He's got the thing I want. Spiked Knuckles is apparently what I called it. Let's give her that. Units. Equipment. Okay, Spiked Knuckles. Okay, save. I'm trying to also think if there's anything special with regards to shield that I've got to think about. Wooden buckler. Do we do anything to change the animation? We have a block sound effect. Oops. Shield. Okay. Okay, and let's shield down. There we go. Let's see if this works. And then if that does work, we can go ahead and try to add the particle effects to it. Is that one we were testing on? This one. Okay. And if this doesn't work, we can just push this other power off for a later time too. Okay, there we go. Now her arm is down, so it's a little more obvious now. I don't know if it made any sound effect though, did it? Let's see. Oh, there we go. Okay. Cool. Okay. And I can't block until moving. And let's just make sure the counterattack. Okay, so that's what I wanted to see, this little animation of her hand down, not blocking. Okay, so that looks like it worked. So now what we want to do is create some kind of a particle effect that would look like it represents that barrier type of thing. So let's go to our particles here and see what we can come up with. And I have no idea how to start making these particles, so I just look at existing ones I have that kind of look like they might be something that could, maybe this thing could be a barrier if that was golden, like it was continuously emanating. That kind of looks like that artwork we have. Think about that, kind of shieldy. A Doctor Strange style sigil in the air, maybe. I'm just flipping through a bunch of different things really fast to see what we've got in here. I went too fast. That is cool too. I have no idea what that was. I'm sort of thinking that first one I said with the Banshee Scream, because it had that like similar, like circular effect in it. Let's go back to that. At least like this, the type of thing it was kind of cool. Let's see if we can find that again. Banshee Scream. Here we go. Yeah, this exactly this one. Okay. So first off, let's copy this. Let's call this barrier. And it needs to be constant, absolutely. Otherwise, it wouldn't really make any sense. And let's change the color first of all, because that's the first part of the problem, is that it looks like just the wrong color. All right, so what's yellow is what? Green and red? Not so much blue. There we go. And here. Starting to look a little more celestial now. And we gotta get the size of this thing down by quite a bit. So we have a scale here, emitter scale. Okay. Let's get start size down by a lot. Finish size down by a lot. This is going to be something that's going to be emanating on a weapon out of their hand. Start whitish, go toward yellow. Okay, that can do that. Ooh, that's weird. I thought that they would kind of... oh, because the alpha ends at... Curious if I do it this way. I guess that looks kind of weird. Let's try to get a little less... more subtle with the white. Oh, I see the problem. The problem is it's got a variance to it. Let's get rid of that variance. It needs to be starting more from the center and then not jumping around so much. So, oh, and then we also got to make it so that the duration is 0. There we go. Now it's constant. So it got rid of that effect. Okay. And then definitely don't need that many particles. Let's drop it down to 25 maybe. The fewer particles, the better with these things because it's just more efficient. Still feel like that should be more yellowy. There it is. Okay. There, I got a bit different shades in there. Exactly. See, as I said, this is fun. You just kind of tweak these little things till they work. That's still probably way too big, but we're going to adjust that. So let's go ahead and throw in a weapon. Let's throw in that iron knuckle so we have a relative size of how big the hand would be. So it's called spiked hand, spiked knuckles. Okay, so there's the knuckles right there, so you can get an idea of how big this is. Like this is way too big because it's like bigger than the size of the character. All right, let's try and shrink it down some more. We just want enough to kind of get that feeling of that artwork we saw. And then we can even do other things like tweak it, speed it up, or slow it down. Okay, so that could work. What do you think? That pancreas says that's it. We hit the ticket. I also noticed there's no particles at the top. Yeah, that's strange, huh? It kind of feels like it's definitely almost... Yeah, why is that? It's probably the rotation variance. Um, Angle variance, start rotation, and rotation. Probably rotation variance, yeah. Let's see here. Okay, let's... Oh, there we go. That's what it was. If we change the end rotation variance there, we get more. There we go. Is that more in line with what you like there? That's kind of more swirly. A little fast, but I can slow that down for it to be reversed. More waves on top. It feels like it's now. Does that look here? I'm gonna give you guys a second for the stream to catch up. Does that look more in line? I just feel like it's too fast now. Is the only problem. So I can slow down the time scale. That looks pretty even right there, and that's probably good pace. Yeah, it's too fast for the new variants. Okay, so let's drop it down to half that, and maybe even a little faster than that. 0.5. 5. Okay. So there we go. I am concerned it's not going to show up on certain backgrounds is the other problem. Oh, we should probably look at the trailingness. When the character moves, it's going to create this little effect when they move their hands. That's something to consider as well. Because remember, they're going to kind of have their... I guess technically their hand will be up. They'll do their block, and then they'll put their hand back down. So it'll kind of create this trail like that. Moons. Yeah, celestial moons. Um, so what I may need to do here is actually somehow, I'm curious if I can, let's see, what blend layer is this? This is normal blend, particle layer blend. Yeah, source layer. So this will go on the particle layer. But I'm curious about how visible this is going to be um, when it's on like a brightly colored map. Because that yellow, let's go ahead and let's test that. Change this to something like tile. I can see it there. Grass, ice. That might be kind of hard to see. It might work. Well, let's try it out and see what happens. All right, so actually we'll call this celestial barrier to make it even more fun. Okay, so now I'm going to show you guys how we make a particle effect thing. I think we did this once before with the poison dagger. The good thing is it'll be underneath the character's hand, so that'll give it some contrast to the background so that you should see a little bit more of the glow with it there. And other things we can do is obviously we can increase the alpha. That might help with it actually. It actually might be better. Have it be just versus this. This is kind of nice because it kind of fades it more, but I think that might be more readable. And that still looks cool. I can also give it more particles. See, jack it up to 50. Ah, now it's crazy. Let's go with 30. Okay, I think that's it. All right, let's save that. All right, and then we have particle ID 155. So we're going to need to edit and create a new asset for this. So off we are to the weapons FLA. Okay. And we're going to create something. Let's go ahead and we're going to clone that existing, what's that guy called? The spiked knuckles. Duplicate. We're going to call this celestial barrier. Okay, excellent. And where do I have those spiked knuckles at? I'm just going to put it wherever I put that thing, right over here. Cool. Okay, excellent. And then I'm going to name it appropriately, so we want to make sure it goes like that. Celestial Barrier Hand. Okay, and then I'm going to use that Poison Dagger as a reference, because I know that's how we set up that particle last time. And it looks like I did it like this. Okay. This is the VFX right there. That's the one I want right there. Okay, so let's copy this. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and throw that in there. Paste frames. Okay, there we go. And then the only difference here is that we got to change that number to match our current number in here, which is 155. Boom. And then we probably want to have it center around the hand. I can make this 0. And then the other thing I thought, probably don't want to have this other thing here. Now, maybe we want to have something like this just to show that there's been a change to their armor, which I don't think is a bad idea here. So I think what I'll maybe do is just make this thing be like, what would contrast well with that? In fact, I think we just get rid of these spikes here. That's probably enough. There we go. Maybe just even keep it dark like that. And then maybe we can make this be like blue and yellow. Yeah, blue and yellow could work. or purple. That's the complementary color of yellow. And then we can maybe have this be like a, but maybe make it darker. Let's see. That doesn't look right. I'm gonna go with the symbolic yellow. Like it's gonna be just, hopefully that'll just make that whole thing pop. See what the rest of this art is here. Let's make this even darker. Doing some artwork. Dun, 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 dun. The thing is, you're probably going to notice so little of this anyway. Once we have it in the game, I don't know how much this is going to read through. I can't tell if I have that thing selected or not. Zoom in closer. Where's this artwork located? There we go. Make that really bright yellow. Brighter purple. Okay, now let's just test it out and see what happens. Save that, publish this. Okay, now we're going to go and throw this into our current assets. So I go to my apps, weapons, and then we go into our, where's this guy at? Show package contents. Okay, let's close it down, reboot it. Okay, now we should have that in there. So let's go to our equipment, celestial barrier, change this guy into the celestial barrier hand. Okay, celestial. Did I pass it? I'm sure I passed it. There it is. Oh yeah, look at that. Sweet. Magical blocky hand. Swirl my magical powers around. Probably should put him in a block position. Let's see. Guard. That's probably how to look most of the time. And then, how do we do that block animation? Shield block is what it's called. Let's see. Okay, so there we go. Now we've got the magical barrier in there. And I'm looking at that. It probably could be a little bigger. We could probably scale that up a little bit, and maybe even increase the speed a little bit so that it trails a little nicer. Let's go to that particle effects, celestial barrier. Let's size this thing up to like, make it 10% larger, and then we'll speed it up to 6.5. Okay, so let's go test that in game now and see how that looks. Grassy path. Test, start game. It's interesting. Did I not save it? I did not save it. That's why it's not working. Equipment, celestial barrier. Probably would help if I had changed that, saved it. Celestial. Okay, SC. There we go. Yeah. Still feels like that's trailing slow to me. I'm going to speed up a little bit more even. Okay. time and grassy path. Test, start game. Okay. Here we go. So now I've got the barrier. I'm not sure. That could maybe be bigger still. Well, what do you guys think? Bigger? Or that look okay? I guess you can see it, which is good. That was my main concern, was that it would be too small. Or, sorry, not transparent enough against the background. I should try it on ice again, see something small like, or snow. That looks okay. Okay. Yeah, this is my concern here with like background like snow. It's going to be a little bit harder. So I may need to add like another non-translucent VFX underneath it and double layer it. That would probably fix that issue that we see here. Yeah, maybe we want to just do a quick little thing with that. And that could even be like a different particle effect, something that's a different shape. Yeah, I concur. It's a little too hard to see that. Let's go to particles. Let's go to the But even if you can't see the warpy nonsense, they have their hand out. True. True, they do. Okay, so we want to create something that's kind of like this. So let's copy it. We're going to call this normal because we're going to change the blending down here at the bottom to 1 and minus source alpha. 1 minus source alpha. So it's important to have these different types of effects because this controls like which layer this thing gets rendered on. So having this probably behind it is probably going to be enough. Make it go the other way and be blue. Yeah, I'm not sure if we want to do that because then it might not look like it's yellow at all. Let's try this real quick and see what happens. Let's go back into here. I don't know if I've ever tried doing this with the normal layer on there as well. Particles layer. How do I do the normals layer on here, I wonder? I'm trying to think which layer I put it on to make it do that. Okay, let's do Hadoop. Celestial, barrier, particle, normal, VFX. I'm going to assume this is 156 since we just made a new one. And then layers, we want to put it on grid view layer. Okay, so particles layer, indicator layer. Let's see here. Units layer. I thought I had one for animations. I'm trying to remember which one that one was. Animations layer. Let's start on animations layer. That's probably the one I wanted on, I think. Okay, now let's publish this again. At the very least, we can see it now, and then we'll be able to change it. Apps. Go to our weapons once again. Copy that. Put this in my thing here. Replace. Okay, restart this bad boy. So now we should see the two effects contrasting, and then we can even adjust it further. Let's try in particles, equipment. That seems weird. It doesn't seem like it looks right at all. It's like I don't seem to, it's probably because I'm not sure actually what it's doing. Let's put it in the game and see if it looks any different. Grassy path again. Definitely can see it a lot better, I think. Yeah, definitely can see it a lot better with that. Maybe if anything, it'd probably be darker. That might even help more to make it so it pops better, having more contrast behind it. I feel like that matches the artwork pretty decently, though. All right, well, I think that's probably good for now. We got something that works, and at least you've got a sense of what it is. I don't think it's the greatest VFX, but again, the goal is just get it to the point where we can get it playable. And I'd say it's pretty playable right now. Yeah, and her hand is down. I still feel like like the emission on that's too slow. It's like it's almost like not. Maybe it's the lifespan, I think, is the problem. Particles, lifespan. Now make the particles go away when she's blocked. Oh yeah, see that would be ideal, wouldn't it? That they should go away when it's blocked. I'm trying to think how we could do that. Well, there is another type of status effect I do have, which is the one where we can apply a particle effects to a character based off of a status, but currently that maps not to their hand, but to the top of their head, or a lesser effect. Yeah, that would be good to have it do that, wouldn't it? Having the effect go away would be great, because you're right, it doesn't make sense. It's still going on. How could we do that? How could we do that? Thinking, thinking, thinking. Yeah, thinking. I'm thinking we could like have her de-equip somehow. Almost like we'd have to create a special VFX for that, so that it takes the equipment off of her, but then it's going to play that equipment animation, so that won't work either. Yeah, so you can tell she has this shield, but it's not available. Yeah, I really like that idea of it going away. Almost like we would need to create something to trigger that, to stop the particle VFX on that item. That would probably have to be a code change. We probably could do it. I could probably put something into that particle, like a special property that turns off the equipment when the shield is off, like just kills all the particles. Yeah, because we could definitely stop the emitter. I'm just going to see if this... Whoa, oh, that's really weird. I'm just trying to see if I get this dragging thing to be a little bit more natural. Do I have a rotation speed? Emitter rotation. Huh, interesting. That looks more natural on streams. Ah! VFX are hard work, I'll say that much. Getting these things to look right, that's tough. I don't know if I can make this go slower, because I was trying to get the emission to do that, but then have its speed time scale slow down. 0.5, 0.2. Yeah, see that problem is it carries that over as well. That's unfortunate. trailingness of it is just problematic. Oh, another thing we could do is I'm trying to think if I make it into the other type of emitter, radial. Ah, that's weird. But radial emitters might be a more natural choice for this thing. Does your particle engine support the particles staying relative to their origin point? Yeah, that's there you go. See, we were thinking the same thing at the same time. Yeah, we can make it a radial. See, and then this will move the entire block all together versus that trailing, which probably makes more sense for something like this. So the thing is, though, that now that we've changed it to this other type of thing, it's probably better to use something that's more naturally going to be a banana vacuum. That's exactly what that looks like. It looks wacky. It'd probably be good to start with something that's already created as a radial. Like these are, was that a radial animation? Yeah, radial. Yeah, that's the thing. I'm not, make it radial. We need to change it so that it's, all these things mean different things for a radial emitter. I'll play with it just a quick second here and see if I can get it to do something. Whoopsie. Whoa, that's wacky. No, no, no. Ah! Yeah, think about it. We may not even need to use this other type of effect. We could probably get rid of this particle and use something like a regular particle for a radial. Oh man, this is just way too big. Oh, there we go. Okay. Like the angle of that particle is wrong. Let's see if I can adjust that. What else can we do with that? Better rotation. Just trying to think which property it is that changes that. I feel like there's also should still be a particle start rotation and rotation variance. Okay, start rotation. It's rotation variance, yeah. I'm just trying to see if I change the, let's kill all the rotation variances and just change the arc of these things to match the direction that thing is going in. This is way too fast. Okay, there we go. Now it's getting better. High latency remote art support. Yes, indeed. Okay, so the other thing I just noticed, we have a start rotation and end rotation. So it looks like it's completing a full circle. There we go. So that gets rid of the entire rotation. Get rid of the angle variance. Okay, so there's that barrier. All right, let's change this thing to something else that's more. That doesn't look right. But yeah, that idea would work, because then it would make it look more like it's a solid object that's swirling around versus like a goofy looking particle trail. That's, I think, what was the problem with it. Huh. I'm just trying to figure out how I could make that shaping. That kind of looked kind of cool there, a little bit. Maybe we don't want to have this be anything. We just make this 0 again. Okay, we're getting closer. Let's see. Something still has some kind of variance to it. There we go. Yeah, see, I knew we'd figure it out. Yeah, that's it. That looks better, and that doesn't do that goofy looking thing. See? Much better. That actually looks a lot more solid now. There we go. See? I knew we'd figure it out. The arcane bananas have been tamed. Absolutely. Yeah, much better as a radial emitter, I think. So let's save that. And the problem is that this one still is set to the normal one, so we gotta get rid of that. So easy way to fix this is to export this particle, save, and then we're going to go ahead and do this, and then I'm going to go to here, and then I'm going to import particle. Boom. And then we're going to change this back to 1 minus source alpha. There we go. Now that's also a radial. Just kind of experimenting here to see what other options we have with this thing. Whoa. Just trying to see if I can make it look darker or whatnot. Let's see how that looks. Maps. Oh, so much better. I already like it so much better. Just not having that goofy trail. Yeah. Let's see. There we go. So now it just looks like a nice static object. It would be really nice to get to turn off after she's down. That would be sweet. So I think that's going to be a code change though. But yeah, much better there. And if I put the snow on, is it easier to see that? It should be. Yeah, you can see it just fine now with the snow. That dark behind it. There we go. It's a little weird when it follows her. I'm seeing it. It's like not quite snapping into place for her, but yeah, agreed. Looks way better. Looks a little strange when she moves. Like it's not quite keeping it in sync with where her hand's at, unfortunately. I think if it were up to me, what I would do is have it so that it actually would turn off when she walks as well, because that looks strange. So if it could turn off whenever she's not with her hand up. Yeah, it's because the particles go above her face. Yeah, good point. It's true. They do. So like this should turn on and off based off of her position. If we could like get it to do that, would be pretty cool. So that it just only shows it when it's in the guard stance. So I'll have to look into that. I'm sure there's some kind of a client change I can make that would say, you know, turn off emitters whenever she's not in the appropriate pose or stance, rather. We turn that off. Yeah, let's put her back in. I'm curious how she looks when she's standing in the middle. Oops. There we go. Okay, cool. Well, let's keep it like that. Okay, so now we've got Celestial Barrier, and this works as it's supposed to. It only works on shield characters. I almost wonder, would making it bigger help? Maybe it's just because it's too small. It doesn't look like it's a shield enough. And the other thing I could have it do is even stretch out. It doesn't have to be a perfect circle. We could make it somehow wider at some point. Interesting. Now he's got that instead of his book. Weird. I almost wonder if his book should have the same VFX on it just for the sake of matching this. Yeah, horizontal. Yeah, see, I agree. I feel like the same problem. It's like it's just not wide enough to look like a shield. Alright, we're going to tweak it a little bit more, just because, why not? Alright, so how do I make this thing wider with a radial thing? I don't know how I would do that. I feel like it would be Normally you'd have like this other, let's see if we did. That's interesting. That creases that makes it wider, but finish size. Oh dear. Yeah, that's problematic. Maybe it's just this particle is just weird. Let's try something else. Yes. See, that gets to be kind of weird still. There was a cool purple vortex. Let's see. That might work. Let's see what that purple vortex was you were talking about. This thing? Oh, maybe. It's interesting how the different particles they've got when they've got color in them, it'll mix with the color that's in here. Star power. I'm curious how this would look with the regards to the particles start along the diameter and suck to the center, not that one. No, definitely not. The Hellfire kind of works, maybe. Yeah. I'm curious how the particles will rotate within the shield when it holds it. I think it'll match it like this, so it'll hold it wider. Mm-hmm. Gold sparkle line. All right, so what do we do for this week? I want to, before I change anything, I like to copy things so I don't lose the original. Okay, there we go. All right, so then we had Celestial Barrier. This is the one that we're changing. Make this into that, and then change that to this. Could still be wider, maybe. Start size 60. There we go. Yeah, let's just see how that looks. I have no idea what this is going to turn into when I do it like that. It'll be nice to have a way to test this more in game. Yeah, so that looks off to me. Part of the problem is I have to. Looks like what I have to do is shift the particle. It didn't center it to the character. Now it looks like she's holding some kind of sword. So our normal shield goes like that. I mean, that if I could shift that over, it might work. It also doesn't rotate with her. Oh, yeah, that's a big problem. It doesn't rotate with her. It stays constant. That's definitely a big problem, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Agreed. Back to the original. Celestial Barrier, original. All right, let's export this again. Actually, here we can just import it into this. We already have it. There we go. Import particle. Oh, interesting. It doesn't change the particle. I gotta put it back to what it was. Choice swirl. Okay. So I wonder if we just made it bigger, if that would fix the problem. But all Magic Shield could be the book. That's true. It could just be the book. That might be an easy way to deal with it, honestly, just to make it the book. All right, let's just make this 95. Okay, let's try this one more time. I just made it a little bigger and thinking that might make it look more natural. So even if it shifts off her hand, it won't be so strange. Definitely bigger helped. Okay, let's go with that for now. Again, that's the great thing about this, is that these can all be tweaked later in the future. That's not too bad. I think if it's when it's bigger, it helps. But I love the suggestion of it turning off. I think would be the best. When you select her and she gets bigger. Oh yeah, the particle does not scale. That's true. The particles are not designed to scale yet. Yeah, good call on that. That's a good point. I'm sure that happens in all the characters with particles too. Great. Great for version 1. Agreed. Yeah, we're going to do a nice VFX polish here. I intend to get all these things really nice and crisp for the polish here. But, alright, we got another spell, so there's another cool thing we can do. Cool. That's a really powerful spell for 2 as well, because it gives you to be able to block any kind of spell attack. That might have to be a higher casting cost card. I feel like that should be at least a 3. It's almost better than Force Field in a way, because there's no obvious way to get rid of it. I've got an idea. I know we're gonna fix the spell. It's just occurred to me. Here's what we're gonna do. Spells. I think it should be a one-time use. So she gets one block with it, and then once it's gone, the magic just goes away. That'll solve all the problems we had with it. And it's still a good spell. And then we'll just make it cost 1 instead of 2. So you get to basically block the next one. So let's make it cost 1. Pancreas says, what? So what we do is we're going to make it so that it one use, yeah, one use. But it blocks magic, so it's going to block whatever the next enemy cast spell is. Yeah, that's good. I think about it, because any spell that in order to disarm it, they've got to cast a magical spell like a fireball or something like that. I have a feeling this is going to be way more powerful. Only if it's a direct hit at the one character. No, she'll block it even if it's not a direct hit. All right, let's see. I gotta figure out how to remove it now, though. So we want to do block. All right, now how do I get it to remove this spell on block? Ability barrier. So when it triggers the barrier, we want to remove it. Back. triggered abilities. Barrier. We want to make it so it de-equips this. Why is this different than counter next spell on cast character? And that is a surprise. Oh, Pancreas is upset. All right, well, I'll explain the difference. So we've got Celestial Shield will prevent the next damage of any kind for 1. But Celestial Barrier is going to protect you against the next magical attack. So the difference being that you can direct the control of it so that it's going to block things like fireballs or ice shards or magical things that may be more potent than just like a 1/1 squirrel. Celestial Shield will trigger just based on the squirrel attack. Yeah, I don't know though. Maybe it should just be an equipment. Just worried. It just feels like it's too powerful to be able. I almost wonder. I'm thinking the same thing about the mage myself now, because his same thing is going to be to have that unlimited block of spells, like the ability to block any spells and just have to move, making him immune to fireballs. It's really tough. All right, you know what? Let's leave it. I'm gonna increase the cost to 3. Let's go back to here, spells. I feel like it's more interesting as equipment. Okay, I am vetoed. I'm vetoed. We'll make it an equipment. First of all, I got to do something here. I got to get rid of the other Celestial Shield. Yeah, so this should no longer be in there. Get rid of this. Let's change it back. All right, we'll keep it as equipment. Ooh, crap. Did I just change the wrong one? Spells. Celestial Shield. Whoopsie-doo. Functional. Alpha. Celestial Barrier. None. Non-functional. We don't want the spell version. We want the equipment version. And equipment. Celestial Barrier. Okay. Okay, there we go. Show 3. Okay, so we'll keep it as equipment, and then we'll balance test it. All right, so 3 for now. Sound good? Like a good casting cost? Save. Okay. Also, I don't know that this is obvious based on this description that it's permanent either. That's the other problem with it right now. Reusable. Okay. Maybe I should even say here equipment. The surprise aspect makes the other powerful if you plan around it, just like a physical attack shield. True, true. Okay. Well, we're going to keep it as Celestial Barrier as equipment, and then let's make this alpha functional, so that should appear in the game now. Okay. And I think that's everything else for this. I think we're ready to do the DLC. So let me just double check the things that we did here. So this is a list of some of the other balance changes I did here. Oh, I remember. I wanted to fix this issue with the red imp. When transfer consciousness is used on the red imp, the player loses their summoner. That was one more thing I was going to try and fix. Let's see if I can do that really quick. Mind control. Swap affix. It was inflict. It will be interesting if it really is OP. Yeah, I agree. I think it's worth balance testing. You're right. I shouldn't preemptively just assume things are going to be OP. They can't kill me if I don't know I exist. All right. So this other issue somebody had reported with the red imp about, there we go, the inflict swap control on it. So what we need to do is, let's see how I would do that. I think that change is going to be more involved, and I'm thinking to fix that problem with the red imp, because his power is going to need to be able to also make it so that if it's your hero, you permanently become that new character that you swap into. Oh man, that's a tricky one. There's all kinds of concerns with using mind control effects with a hero taking over. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, think about how this will work. I have an example of this with mind control already. Let's see. Mind control. Apply status effect mind control. Now transfer consciousness says yeah, we need to permanently make it. All right, let's go to triggered abilities. Inflict. Swap control. Okay. So here we go. Visible. Unit. Target team's not equal to ability user team. All right, we need to have a condition for if the imp is the hero. Target subject. Target attributes his hero is greater than or equal to 1. We're going to make this group group 2. Yeah. Save, and then we're going to have another one for target subject. Target traits property attributes is hero is less than or equal to number 0. And that will be group 1. Except this shouldn't be target. This should be target subject ability user. Same thing here. Okay, so in order to fix this imp losing control of your summoner issue, when you transfer consciousness into the imp, okay, so if you are the hero, no, if you're not the hero, we're going to do group 1 targeting. If you are, you're going to do group 2. Okay. So apply mind status, mind control you back to target, attribute controller on target. This will be for group 1, mind control that target. Apply status, okay. So new effect, set attribute is hero equal to 1 on target for group 2. So if you are the hero and you're casting this on the imp with the red imp, we're going to set you to being hero on the new character. And then we're also going to go ahead and set attribute player controller will be permanent to ability user attribute player controller on target. And we also need to make sure that the imp is turned back not to the hero. Set attribute is hero number 0 on ability user, and that's group 2 as well. Okay. Okay, so I'm explaining the problem. The issue we had was that when the red imp is transferred consciousness into, which means your summoner becomes your red imp, and you use his power on an enemy to take control of it, currently what happens is you lose your summoner, and you can no longer cast spells. We don't want that. So what we're going to do is change it so that if the ability user is not the hero, we're just going to go ahead and apply the mind control as normal. But if the ability user is the hero, what we're going to do is make it so that the target becomes a hero, that the target's attribute controller becomes the ability user's player controller number, and that the attribute hero on the imp is set back to 0. So this should fix that imp problem. We're going to go ahead and test that now. And in order to do that, I need a spells, decks. We need to make sure we have that transfer consciousness power to test this. Transfer test. Everything but transfer consciousness is in here. All right. Transfer consciousness. Okay, so go back to maps. Okay, grassy path. Changes back to transfer test. T for transfer to the top. Start game. Okay, here we go. Fixing that weird edge case of the imp. Transfer conscious. So now I am the imp, and let's see what happens if I take control of her now. Hey, there we go. That's what I wanted to see happen. Now my hero is the Necromancer. That's a fun combo with that character. Alright, so that fixed that edge case. Let's make sure the red imp works as normal otherwise. It should be just to swap the two of these guys. Good. There we go. Nuts. Yeah. That was a weird edge case that folks had discovered with him. Excellent. Okay, so there we go. That fixes the red imp power. Okay, so this goes set to done. All right, I've only got 5 minutes left before I got to go and do another kid pickup run, but I'll still come back and finish this up. Real quick question though, just to ponder. We had talked about the wizard's ability. So the wizard draws cards when he casts a card or discards. The issue is that when you use cards like the Phoenix, you can end up getting a hand size that's much, much larger than the 3. So there was some debate about whether the wizard should be allowed to use his draw ability if he's already got 3 cards in his hand. And I'll let you guys think about that one and let me know because I haven't made that change yet, but that's one possibility. The piece I did fix, I'm going to go over some other balance changes coming in this DLC update. I changed Cleansing Fire and Rust so they can target any unit, so instead of just normally visible, and so that way you can use Cleansing Fire and Rust as a way to also reveal stealth. Since stealth has very few natural counters, I figured I'd add a couple more. I didn't change this gravity wheel yet. I did make it so that cards always reveal on end turn. There were some bugs being reported with the wizard having an issue in multiplayer where you didn't reveal his card, but then you did reveal it on your opponent's turn, so that's been fixed. The Necromancer apparently could summon skeletons by attacking bushes. I felt that was weird, so I fixed that. I fixed the animation with the red imp where it looked like his animation bounced back and forth too many times. Rebalance some more of the maps. There were still some issues with starting locations having really weird first turn advantages, so those got corrected. Oh, I know. I added a new power to Rugged Mage. So previously he didn't deal any damage with his knockback power, and now I made it so he does damage equal to his attack power. And I did that to kind of balance out the Archmage the Battle Mage, because he just didn't seem like he had enough power relative to something like this guy that's got just wicked powers. Okay. So, and then obviously we just fixed the transfer consciousness. And then we also added new cards. Were the Dark Elf Summoner. What was the other character we added? Oh yeah, Your Soul is Mine. And then the Battle Mage. And the other one was the Celestial Barrier card. So 4 new cards today. Okay, cool. So all sounds like great fixes changes, says the Pancreas. Excellent. I've got to go do a kid pickup run. I will be back, and then I will get all this stuff uploaded to the website and apply to DLC. Then I'll send everybody a happy, friendly message in Discord when the new changes are up, and we should be good to enjoy playing these cards later this afternoon. Oh, real quick, Clever says, maybe let the wizard have a max hand size of 4 as part of his power. Okay, interesting. Rugged Wizard is so survivable, but couldn't kill anything. Yeah, exactly. He needs some kind of power. So I thought that would be kind of cool to give him that edge. I'll show you what I changed with him. Let's see, Rugged Mage. Rugged mage. Yeah, he just needed a little something. Because, I mean, the other mages we made so powerful, like Kaylin with that vigil, made her really strong. So all I did to him was make it so that he now deals damage equal to his power. And so the advantage here is that you could use your your nature powers, for example, to give him increased strength, bloodlust him or whatnot, and now he could deal damage. In addition to being able to knock people back and do that damage there. So that's kind of like a fun new addition to him. Ah, take that, skeleton. Ah, dead. All right. Great stream, says the Pancreas. Clever says, think that way he can't get like a million cards, but Phoenix still doesn't become a detriment. True, true. Okay, that's something to think about, limiting his hand size to 4 like that. All right, guys, I will notify in the Discord once I've got the DLC up here and when the new cards are ready and in the game. Thanks again for joining me for part 2. Glad to get those things working and appreciate you guys being here to support the development efforts. I'll see you guys next week. I don't think my hotkey is working.